Today we are learning basketball with Zena Keita. She covers all of Golden State basketball between the Warriors for NBC, the Valkyries for CBS as a TV analyst, and hosts two basketball podcasts, NBA Daily, No Offseason with the Athletic. Where do you find the time? What was your journey like to get to this point? But also, how are you doing today, Zena?
I'm doing well. It's funny when you list it out, I'm like, damn, that is a lot, huh? Yeah, no, it's kind of crazy trying to keep all of the things in my mind of the WNBA and the NBA, like off-season NBA moves while in-season WNBA moves are happening. I'm like, I don't know if I just got those acronyms correct. So yeah, that's how I'm doing. But it's going well. I am very happy to be in the position that I'm in. I mean, I literally started my career selling tickets for the Miami Dolphins, just because I wanted to be in sports so badly, but I didn't know how to get into it. And that is one way to get in, is just to start with a team. If I could tell myself to do it all over again, one, the sports world has changed significantly since then. There are so many more sports opportunities, but I am happy that I finally had the courage to go after my dream, which was talking about sports, and utilize my voice 10 years after I entered the sports space. So after working for the Dolphins, changed into sports partnerships for the Miami Dolphins, helped reopen the Hard Rock Stadium and work with the partners over there. And that allowed me to have the experience to go to the Warriors, who are opening Chase Center, and reconfigured partnerships from old Oracle into Chase Center. Then the pandemic hit, and I was like, ooh, I'm kind of itching to do more partnerships work, but new partnerships work. And that led me to the Athletic, that was building up their partnerships department. And that's where I kind of got my first exposure to sports media, written sports media. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. I love the stories being told. And I want to still find a way to utilize my voice, because in all of those stops that I had in my sports career, anytime there's opportunity to talk, I raised my hand for free. So that's when I knew, like, okay, you want to do this, you got to figure this out. And during the pandemic, I think all of us had our kind of come to Jesus moments about what we want to do, how we're using our gifts, all the above. And I decided to become a sideline reporter on the side while working a corporate job. And I was a sideline reporter for Santa Cruz, and that got me exposure. That allowed me to get to NBC Sports Bay Area, start covering the Warriors. That got me more exposure, and it just started all falling into place. And now I got podcasts and TV, and I think way too much about basketballs.
Hey, basketball is your world. I mean,
Right.
there's so much there. I don't even know where to begin. Do you think was there like one breakthrough moment for you where you finally felt like you made it, or is it just the grind kind of just starts, I don't know, grinding on top of each other, where it just keeps building to a bigger work ethic?
I think it's the latter. I think it keeps building. I don't think I've made it yet. But I will say, I'll give you an example of something that continuously tells me I'm on the right path. I've had multiple examples of this, but one most recently, I got the opportunity to do a summer league game, a color analyst role on ESPN, covering, I believe it was the Lakers
That's awesome.
versus the Warriors, and it was awesome. And one of the coaches for the Golden State Warriors texted me, and I know him from my work in Santa Cruz, and he texted me and goes, hey, I don't know a lot of people that do TV analyzing, right? Pre-game, post-game, which is what I usually do for the Warriors and the Valkyries. He was like, I don't know a lot of people that can do both. And you can do both. You're really good. Like, great job. And I'm not just saying this to you because I'm your friend. And this person is like not a person that like throws compliments around, and he's not like everyone's hype man or anything like that. And so it meant a lot to hear a coach, right? Someone that is watching film and scouts. And this is summer league. So these coaches are watching like scouts, right? And they're taking this seriously. For him to take the moment to send that text was like, all right, I'm on the right path. I'm doing the right things. Let me just keep going. As you mentioned, continuing to build that work ethic.
Yeah, I mean that's just awesome to kind of get that accreditation from someone in the field, like you know what you're doing and you know what you're talking about, and you can do it different ways, and those are different skills. And there's plenty of former players that are bigger than life on the court that don't quite pan out that way on the mic. So like that is a whole nother skill, absolutely. And that just shows off your versatility covering the sport. And on some of the teams, I want to hear a little bit about the Valkyries and what it was like just covering this expansion. Like from the very beginning, you know, a lot of basketball fans know about expansion drafts from video games. Like that's the only relation, because they haven't really happened in the NBA. The Charlotte Hornets 2004 was the last expansion draft for the NBA side of things. So there's been a few since the Magic. Vancouver Grizzlies and the Raptors were in there since the Magic and Heat. So there's been a few since about the 90s, but you know, from about 89 to 2004, it looks like 5 teams or so joined, 5 or 6. But so that's how the expansion was looking. But like, what's it like actually seeing an expansion draft up close? And where like it's just a little bit of an odd procedure where the team can basically hand select their roster from every other team in the league, and the other teams can only protect so many of their own players. And there's so much, it's the best time to be in that situation for an expansion draft, because there's just so much talent in the WNBA. Feels like there's all-star teams in every corner. You can protect 5 players and you're still going to lose a top 5 pick that you just picked like last year because they're not making the team. So like, what was that like, just seeing that process actually play out?
It was pretty special for me, mainly because when I was at the Warriors, I got the opportunity to work on a task force that was putting together the pitch around a WNBA team coming to the Bay. And I don't believe I'm an NDA, so I can share that. But it was really cool to then be able to see it come to life. Like, this is awesome. This is an area, a region that has always loved women's basketball. Stanford and Cal are huge out here. And that's not just that. They've got, you know, championship caliber high school teams out here as well. And so it was just really dope to be a part of that process of bringing basketball to a place that already had its roots deep into the space. And then you go through the expansion draft, and the last WNBA expansion, I'm not sure what the number is on the year is for the NBA. I'll be honest, I'm not sure on that. But I know that in the WNBA, the last one was in 2008 with the Atlanta Dream. And in that process with the Atlanta Dream, you saw them in their first season. They won like 5 games. So there's not a ton of an excitement around it. You don't know what to expect around it, but you're just like, all right, well, they'll take a little bit of time to get going. And then you watch back in 2008, this is what this team comes about. You watch now here, 2024, Valkyries come about even before they have a player. Hell, even before they had a coach. Sellouts, ticket deposits. People are bought in, wanting to be a part of this team, wanting to be a part about whatever is going to happen. They don't even know who's going to be on the roster. And so it was really dope to be able to see just the excitement of everyone really wanting to get involved even before it got off the ground. Then it gets off the ground. And that expansion draft was one of the craziest things I've ever seen, because you're looking at some of these players and it was just verification that, wow, this league is stockpiled with so much talent. Kayla Thornton comes off the board, and she comes off the board and you're like, she is like the defensive enforcer out in New York, help them win a championship, and she's available.
Right.
What? Right. And you can keep going down the line. I mean, you get Kate Martin, you think Temi Fagbenle absolutely could have been a 6th woman of the year in Indiana the year before. She was a perfect target for Caitlin Clark. Actually, in the midst of everything that was going on with Caitlin Clark trying to get the ball to her teammates last year, she was probably the best one at catching them in transition. And she's available, right? And so it was amazing to see, wow, okay. Even though we're going off of players that were quote unquote unprotected, this is solid talent. Take those, we'll see what happens thoughts away. This team might actually be really, really good. Then you fast forward to the actual season, and lo and behold, the work that GM Ohemaa Nyanin did in the expansion draft, looking at not only the players that were unprotected in the league, but also the rights to other players, like making sure that she had players on her roster that people might want to pick up later on. Right now, you look at the amount of people that were dismissed from the Valkyries over the course of maybe training camp or throughout the season with the roster changes they had with Euroball. Literally, Julie Van Loo is on a team. She's rostered in LA. Chloe Bibby is on a team. Stephanie Talbot is on a team. Mamadou Toure is on a team. Like, the league is filled with Valkyries players, right? Like, this is just how stacked this team was in terms of talent, and it's translated out on the court. We've been able to see 13 consecutive sellouts at Valhalla, which they've lovingly named their home court. And they're doing well. They're in playoff contention as an expansion team. So it's been really fun, one, wiping away these kind of it's an expansion team. We'll see what happens. Expectations. And putting on, whoa, playoff or bust. That's where people are thinking about for the Valkyries. So it's been a lot of fun being a part of that.
Man, I bet it sounds like an incredible experience from day one. Like it's been a huge marketing success story across the board.
Yes.
Like you're saying, like said, selling out ticket sales before they even know what's going to be on the court. I was reading a piece by Logan Murdoch from The Ringer today about the success as well, that highlighted a lot of the names that you just mentioned, and along with the head coach Natalie Nakase. I believe I pronounced that correctly.
Nakase.
Apologies, Nakase. There, sorry. But just the incredible job of that organization headed by Joe Lacob as well, leading the expansion. Owner of the Warriors, helping lead the expansion to the WNBA in Golden State. Bring women's basketball there, and it's just been a huge success. You highlighted this season already that they're the 8th overall seed. Like they would be in the playoffs as of today as an expansion team, and that's just pretty much unheard of for any team. And I just love the idea of like the expansion draft giving you the ability to find like real talent that isn't getting used or used enough on other teams because of, like we said, like how much depth there is in this league right now. So there's just so much talent available. So that it gives you a real chance to actually have a chance in year one, because you're finding like former top 10 picks across the board. And, you mentioned Kate Martin, former teammate of Caitlin Clark, all that success at Iowa, Kayla Thornton, the lockdown defender, Veronica Burton, Logan mentions in the article as well, that how she's a former top 10 pick, couldn't quite find, a steady role at her first 2 stops. And like you said, just the front office using their connections to find talent around the world, find veterans that can, be traded or flipped for assets or picks later on for other teams that might, have different aspirations this year. So just a really smart team building process across the board. So my question there to follow up is like, where do you credit the biggest impact for this success? Is there one person? Is there one part of the process? Ooh. Is it just, top to bottom vertical alignment between everyone being on the same page? Like, what stands out to you?
It's funny because if I tried to give it to one person in the Valkyries organization, they'd be like, no, it's them, it's them. It's the players, it's the GM, it's the coach. Like that is just the essence of this team. They're so giving and so accountable of how they contribute to this process and this winning process, whether they end up in the playoffs or not, whether they end up winning a championship or not. Like this has been a winning process. They have set the blueprint for every other expansion team to realize, okay, this is what we can achieve. Now, who could I give the most credit to? I think it's got to be that vertical alignment from top to bottom. Like when you consider the fact that GM Ohemaa Nyanin was in New York prior to this with Jonathan Kolb. You think about that team right now, Jonquel Jones, Brianna Stewart, Sabrina Ionescu, before, the championship team with Courtney Vandersloot, like Nyanin was behind a lot of those signings. She was the person on the phone with these players, getting them to buy in and getting them to come in and shake up the league. That had not really happened in terms of the Aces won back to back. And it was like, how can we build a team that can fix this issue of having the Aces at the top of the league? Who can dethrone them? And Jonathan Kolb and GM Ohemaa Nyanin did that. And then she comes to the Valkyries, and from her hiring ability in the basketball portion, just like the coaching, you got Natalie Nakase, a player development coach that coached under Becky Hammon in Las Vegas, has the ability to watch film and develop players, has her own ideas, different schemes and things that she can implement, and you've seen her implement. Look at the defense and how quickly the Valkyries have identified that their defense is their bread and butter. This is their calling card when they get on the floor. You might beat the Valkyries, but you can go home with a few bruises. It's going to be a hard game for you to play. So she hires Natalie Nakase. Natalie Nakase hires an amazing staff around her. And then the draft happens. And then you also sign Tiffany Hayes. I say Tiffany. Tiffany Tip Hayes. I always call her Tiffany. You signed Tip Hayes.
The nickname is right in there.
I know, exactly. You signed Tip Hayes, 6th Woman of the Year, out of the Aces. You already have Kate Martin on the team. You add Tip Hayes with the Natalie Nakase angle. You already have that working for you in terms of they have familiarity with each other. Then you have Nyanin, who also has an international mind. And then you have this team that is filled with international talent. Now, before there was Stephanie Talbot and Chloe Bibby out of Australia. Of course, right now you've got Carla Lake, Janelle Salon, and Ileana Rupert out of France. Yeah, the same France team that gave Team USA a run for their money and got silver in the Olympics. Yeah, you got 3 players out of their Team France program. That's right there on that team. So there's so many synergies through that. So I give her a lot of credit, but then I also give credit to the fact that everyone on this roster, top to bottom, realizes this is an opportunity to prove something, to prove they deserve to be here, to prove that they weren't given the minutes or the opportunity or the reps or the whatever, the circumstance to support the resources in other places in order to shine. So they immediately come here and they showcase parts of their games that we didn't know was capable. Letitia Amihere was a number 8 pick, I believe in 2023. And she was sitting at the end of the bench in Atlanta. Now she comes and she's with the WNBA in Golden State. She gets cut in training camp, gets brought back, earns her spot onto this roster, and now is a rebounding, penetrating, being able to get to the rim easy threat for the Valkyries. Same thing with Veronica Burton, known for her defense, defensive player of the year in the NCAA. She comes in to Dallas and then Connecticut, defensive player. Now she's the person that's going to the rim. Now she's the 3-point threat for the Valkyries. So I credit everyone in this organization. I think they've really done a great job of just realizing we've got an opportunity to prove something here. F all these expectations. F this belief that we're an expansion team, so we're not going to do well. Let's just play ball and see what happens. And they've really set a standard.
That's awesome. It's really like the ultimate second chance opportunity for every single player there to prove their worth, to earn that contract that they want, to have a little playing time and role that makes sense for them. And, and as you mentioned, an important part of that chemistry to me is the experience playing together in other contexts gives you something to work off of. So it's not a complete black hole on day one. And when you mentioned 3 different players here with France and different players here as teammates, either formerly or, on the last team, it's some familiarity to build off of that, is a lot better than nothing, because that situation could easily be an island of misfit toys the first year or two, where it's just random pieces not really thought to put together at talent acquisition that doesn't really fit together, but it's something. And, when you have the good process and kind of forward thinking of a front office to put that together, then, it starts to make a lot more sense. And they just seem to have hit a home run across the board. So, shout out to this team for incredible success, and can't wait to see kind of how it goes with year one and who kind of stands out as, maybe a face of their franchise going forward as well. And, transitioning a little to the Warriors, I was wondering, first off, a little bit about Steve Kerr. He's heading into his 12th season. Is there as the head coach, only been the head coach of this team his whole coaching career here. How do you think he hasn't lost his voice, or really have you seen, because it's tough. Normally after 5 seasons, a head coach gets run out of the NBA. Sure. And Steve's on to his 12th. So, he's doing something right to kind of keep the message fresh every year. And obviously from the outside, it's that positive communication and the ability to kind of, keep Steph up and keep Draymond down a little. What about that, maybe has changed or stayed the same to you? Where do you think the impact from Steve Kerr really will come, as a change or a new season, or has it just been, really the same message and it just works for him?
Well, I think what definitely works for him is his consistency. You want a coach that is able to keep the main thing, and in terms of how he treats people. He wants to win basketball games. He knows the tools that he has available to him. People can criticize how he utilizes those tools, but one thing is that the players, especially the veterans, the ones that he counts on to help him win those games, they know what to expect out of him. And I think that, if anything, has been the downfall of some of the coaches that we've seen lose their jobs in recent years, whether it's Tom Thibodeau, Mike Malone. We've seen inconsistency in either the front office, basically the coaches' bosses not knowing what to expect from him, or the players not knowing what to expect from him. And so you can tell within the Warriors organization, folks know what to expect out of Steve Kerr. He likes his veterans. He manages egos well. I think this is a direct, a direct element of when you're a descendant of Greg Popovich, which he is. He's part of the Pop coaching tree. And I think that he has that cool-headedness about him, and he's going to defend his players, and he's going to go and rock with his players. And I think that that's important too. You want someone that feels like they have your back out there. And we've seen, especially in the championship years, and I think that that's where a lot of the credibility got built and cemented. We've seen moments where Steve Kerr leaves the huddle and lets Andre Iguodala lead it, or lets Draymond lead it, or Steph, or whomever, right? That level of trust between his players, I think, is something that they also they can expect out of him. Now, I think what's very interesting in recent years, as this quote unquote, here it goes. Of course, we can't get through talking about the Warriors without saying the words, two timeline approach. As these younger players come in, Steve Kerr isn't known for developing players. That's not what his MO has ever been. He came in with a team kind of established, and talent that was at the level necessary to be able to win games. And he's able to coach and scheme them together and build trust and build I think an environment in which people want to contribute and win. And I think that's a really big element or a big factor to him. But he's not known to, get a number 7 draft pick like a Jonathan Kuminga or a 14th draft pick like Moses Moody, or even number 2 draft pick like James Wiseman, and spend all this time developing them. No, especially at this point, he's got to make do with what he has and make sure that he's capitalizing on the last few years of a Stephen Curry, when they had Klay Thompson and Draymond Green. And now, Kevon Looney's out the door. But even when Kevon was there, that too, capitalizing on your championship core and what can you do and maximizing them. So I am very curious what this year is going to be about. Especially, you bring in a new veteran like Jimmy Butler. He knows how to win. He knows what it takes to win. We saw the before and after, basically after February 8th, the Warriors were a brand new team once Jimmy Butler joined. And we've seen how he elevates, right? The tide that raises all ships. Brandon Podziemski was better when Jimmy Butler arrived. We saw Quentin Post find better opportunities. Even Trayce Jackson-Davis found better opportunities. Buddy Hield was better. I mean, there was so many different ways in which Jimmy's arrival sped up the pace of their team, allowed them to find a different way to score. And I'm kind of rambling now, but my point is that Steve Kerr knows how to work with veterans, and he has the trust of his players. What's going to be interesting this year is now that this Jonathan Kuminga thing, which is still lingering over their heads, is going to be a factor. If he's still going to be on this team, there is no way around putting him in the rotation. There's no way around ensuring that Moses Moody, who just signed an extension, and Jonathan Kuminga have distinct roles. And that is going to be directly upon the shoulders of Steve Kerr. And that's where I think his legacy with the Warriors, this is going to be a very important chapter. How much trust does he have with the younger guys versus just the veterans?
A great point. And, I wanted to highlight Steve Kerr's coaching style, and because it kind of reminds me of Pete Carroll. And I saw this kind of Pete Carroll quote the other day.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I think they even had a podcast together. That's how much they're aligned at some point back then. But he just had this video kind of breaking down coaching styles, and it reminded me of a little bit of Kerr's as well, of like being on the side of trying to empower the player in their confidence as a player, to like build trust in the system so they can be creative within that system, and just the positive communication styles that you hit on. So, that seems to be a working formula enough for that consistency. And like you said, it's interesting how it will mix with, balancing veteran star egos with, young players that want to prove themselves for the same reasons, to earn everything there. And I was going to ask you if there were any updates on the Kuminga situation or anything you've, seen about what that would look like. It does sound like you said, like from the outside, maybe he's just back for 1 year, or maybe they come to a team friendly agreement. But what's that look like? And I have some stats on Jimmy too. But was there any thoughts you had on Kuminga?
Yeah, no, I haven't heard anything else that's new. I think the biggest thing is that it looks like he's coming back for a year to play out his final year, and then he'll basically get to see what the market allows him to get. There's been the conversation around the Sacramento Kings and them potentially trying to send Malik Monk and a particular first round pick. The contention has been around whether that first round pick is protected or not protected. The Warriors want it unprotected. Sacramento does not want that, of course, as no one would want that as well. But as of right now, it's just a matter of Kuminga sees himself as a star. He sees himself as worthy of X, Y, and Z dollars, which is north of the 21 million, the 20 to 21 million that the Warriors are offering him. And he's like, he doesn't want to settle for that. I ain't mad at him. And I would say that when you think about what happened in the last 4 years of his career with this uncertainty around his role, I can see and I can empathize why he would want to cement those dollars now, especially because he doesn't know what's going to happen in the next 4 years, right? Especially after what he just experienced at the Warriors. So I get it, and I also understand that the Warriors are not going to budge. They're going to see what they can get, and they didn't budge with Klay Thompson. They definitely aren't going to budge with Jonathan Kuminga. So we'll see what happens. Something's going to give, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, the negotiation for both sides makes a lot of sense for what each side is looking out for at this point. And you hit on Jimmy's impact since February 8th. The team was as good as any team in the league to me. They look like bona fide contenders, like the perfect give and take dynamic with Steph's like shooting gravity to Jimmy's downhill foul drawing, paint sucking gravity, whatever down there, downhill force that Jimmy is. The team was, first in free throw rate after that point, 23-8 record, 7th in offense, 1st in defense, 11th in defending fouls, 1st in forcing turnovers, 6th in offensive boards, 14th defensive boards. So across the board, they're an elite two-way team, a contender. If anything, maybe like a piece short or a rotation player short or that third guy short. If anything, does it look like they are just kind of running it back, assuming Kuminga kind of comes back too? The stats, as you said, like insane with Jimmy on the floor. They were +5 net rating in 500 minutes with Steph and Jimmy on, +6 net rating in 450 minutes with Draymond on as well. Right. The number goes up in the playoffs, +7.5 in 140 minutes with those three together. Do you think we get at least one more Steph Curry MVP year, and are all signs to Jimmy being as motivated this year as he was last year, coming off that kind of like screw the world mentality after the Miami trade? Is he still bringing that energy so we get another peak Steph season?
I mean, you never ever want to count Steph out for an MVP season. He was putting up MVP numbers last year. I think the number one thing with Steph comes down to his health, right? Most of the season he dealt with that bilateral knee pain, and that impacted just how many games he could be involved in. And towards the end in the playoffs, that was a factor. Same thing with Jimmy Butler, who was playing through the playoffs hurt, had dealt with that bone contusion in his back and his bum, basically. And was playing through that, wasn't quite himself throughout the playoffs. And that was really the nail that did them in against the Minnesota Timberwolves, just like health. So after rest, a much longer rest than they typically have, being out of the playoffs a little bit earlier, I can imagine that they're going to come back and they're going to try and run it back. But you're right. They were one rotation piece short. And the interesting thing is that they found it in spurts out of Moses Moody and Jonathan Kuminga, which is really, they wanted a wing sizable defender, which Moses Moody really could guard 1 through 4 confidently. He was used in that way. But they wouldn't maybe they would get the defense, but they wouldn't get the offense. And they needed a stretch wing that could shoot outside consistently. When Jimmy and Jonathan Kuminga first played together earlier in the right upon Jimmy's return, we saw spurts of it. Oh, this could work. But the only way it was working is because one of them would be stepping outside to shoot the three, allowing the other to work in the mid post or work in that low post extended baseline area, which is where Jimmy loves to do his post work. But then eventually you saw Jonathan Kuminga, his, not relying on his three ball, which I don't mind, and relying on what he can do well, which is ISO ball, taking folks from the top of the key, working in that mid post as well. Well, guess what? You can't have two people working on top of each other. And I think that that's where, if Jonathan Kuminga could develop a more consistent outside 3-point shot, whether it's on the wing or in the corner, that can be a really deadly, lethal lineup because he can guard as well. Folks have comments about him knowing where to be out on the floor. That's going to have to come with age. G League Ignite isn't playing under a NCAA college system in which you're constantly learning every single position you should be on the floor. It's going to come with more reps, and you would have hoped it came by the fourth year of his career, but he's not getting enough reps out there. Sometimes he's playing with folks that he doesn't typically play with. I'm not going to consistently make excuses for Jonathan, but if you know it's a contract year, you're playing for money, I'm just going to put money on that he's going to figure it out. I'm going to put his money up that he's going to figure it out. So I feel like they're going to run it back. It'd be really interesting for me to see if maybe Alex Tui, this is going to be like a stretch, but Alex Tui, this like 6'9" Australian wing that they just picked up in the draft, second rounder, but could be what they need. He plays fast and furious as well up and down the floor, but he's big. He can shoot. He's kind of like a jack of all trades. We saw what happened with Quentin Post. No one was expecting him, number 50, 53, 56 pick, immediately get starting minutes because he can do what? Shoot. And he's huge. You can't teach size. So I'm like, what if they want it back and then they have a two-way with Alex Tui and Tui finds a way to get some significant minutes and impact winning, that would be really cool to have him coming off the bench and being a stretch wing for them. But yeah, it definitely is. Put your faith in Steph Curry. Put your faith in Draymond Green being your enforcer and Jimmy Butler being the nice two-headed snake alongside Steph. And let's see what happens.
There it is. I know Quentin Post, to me, in that Magic game where Steph had his season high, he blew up in the third quarter. But to me, the actual little adjustment was Steve Kerr started Quentin Post, and he just killed in that matchup. Whatever it was, he brought the D and 3 blocks and threes that you want from that position in that moment, and that was just enough to allow Steph a little bit to catch fire. And obviously, Steph does the rest. He's just all-time incredible. And that makes a lot of sense too. I'm a huge Moses Moody fan. I want him to get more opportunity, more playing time there. I think he's just been if anything, underused. I would love to see him get a bigger role. And on Kuminga, he does have those nights where he'll get you a 20 points and look like, especially what they need as a defensive wing and a play finisher. And then the shooting is a big question, no doubt. So we'll see if they get one more guy. I thought they might go after one more big name veteran, but maybe it's around the corner, but maybe not. If not, I do think the expectations seem to be championship or bust across the franchise there. So not to bury the lead, I believe there's some breaking news with the green dildo WNBA situation that might have to hop out before we go. If you still have time, we can hit on our most interesting storylines, but it's about that time. Yeah. So you tell me.
Let's do our quick storyline. They have not they're texting me right now. So they're going to set up around 1:40. So we should have time. But yes, just for context as to what we're talking about, we're not just randomly talking about sex apparatuses on this podcast. There have been green sex toys thrown on the courts of WNBA games, specifically WNBA games, not any other sporting events, but specifically WNBA games. And the first time it was funny. The second time it was like, this is weird. And now the third and fourth time, one was intercepted, or it didn't. I guess I don't even call it intercept. Well, one was intercepted, and this was a different game. There's another one that was too short and almost hit a child, which is so embarrassing. You go to a sporting event to throw a green sex toy onto the court, and you throw it short. How embarrassing. Wow. Anyways.
Can't even finish.
Yeah. Right, exactly.
The prank. Who
Well,
said
that
that?
could be taken very, very different ways. But anywho, so yeah, we're going to be doing a show on No Off Season, the women's basketball podcast that I do, in which we break down the theory behind this. As of right now, it's still a conspiracy, but I believe our writer has more context to share. So definitely go check out No Off Season, an episode that drops tomorrow, and we'll be able to get that done. But yes, my 5 most interesting storylines for next season. Let's run them quickly. Let's see if we overlap at all. My number 1, does OKC repeat? And the main reason is because OKC, namely Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but that whole organization, the way they came together through the draft, the treasure trove of assets and talent that they've had, and the short window they have to capitalize on it before the salary cap basically blows them up, forces them to be blown up. Are they going to be able to capitalize on and get another championship? They look poised and ready to run this back. But we saw what happened with Boston, and we saw what happened with Denver. And we've also seen that teams have retooled around the association, especially in the West. Houston being one of them, Denver being another one of them. And I am very curious as to how people have basically shifted around to solve the OKC problem. And I put problem in quotes because it's really a great thing. They've done it the right way. And I want to see if they can reward themselves again. What's your number 1?
Yeah, that's a great number 1. Definitely, I think they've like earned the potential dynasty title, and now it's their title to lose. Like they have everything a team could ask for, as you're saying. Like they got the win now players that are young and hungry and ready, the experience, the pieces, picks to make flexible or to stay flexible for future moves as well. So they are like, the measuring stick for teams, I think. And so that's definitely interesting. I mean, I'm cover the Orlando Magic. So number 1 for me is how high will Desmond Baines fit on the Paulo Franz Suggs Orlando Magic? Take the team ceiling. Are we talking contender instantly year 1? The East is wide open. Are they, all the Magic fans, I wouldn't say are expecting perfection, but like if everything stays relatively healthy, we're talking at least a top 3 seed and some all-stars, some maybe an all-NBA. Like we'll just count off the awards, So that's
the
number
East
1.
is open. Absolutely. The East is open. I think the Magic, I just said this on another podcast. Someone was asking me about New York versus Cleveland next year. I was like, oh, you were worried about the wrong teams. You need to be thinking about Atlanta and you need to be thinking about Orlando. And yes, Orlando needed that outside shooting. This is great. No, we just want to make sure that we just bubble wrap all the obliques. All right. Like no issues to Franz, no issues to Paulo. Of course, Mo Wagner signed that extension. He's should be good eventually throughout the season. So I'm looking at Orlando like absolutely. Jalen Suggs, definitely want him to stay healthy as well. You guys also got Tyus Jones, I believe, too.
Tyus Jones, we got Jace Richardson, the rookie, Noah Penda, the rookie.
You got some really good pieces, and you're young. And I loved the way that Orlando showed up against Boston. I think they were young, but they're going to be another year older, another year wiser, and that's a good one to have as your number 1. I'm going to kind of follow your lead here for my number 2. I cover the Warriors, so my number 2 is the 2 timeline finally going to converge? What is going to happen with Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody? How is Brandon Podziemski going to elevate his game? Because I feel like as much as we've liked his game, we want to see him kind of unearth some other elements of it, be more consistent in his outside shot, be more consistent in, he can get to the rim, but like, can he unlock another level to it as a consistent rim pressurer? So I just want to see how the youth are going to find their way into this veteran talk and not allow the whole story to be about Steph Curry and taking care of him and making sure that you capitalize on him before his knees give out on him, and making it be Steph Curry passing the torch. Because we know that that's a very similar conversation that's happening in LA right now, right? LeBron doing well, passing the torch to Luka. What is the story for the Warriors in this 2 timeline finally converging?
I like it. You might have touched on my number 3 and number 5 and already. So that's, I mean,
Okay.
super interesting. I think, I kind of could also see a deadline deal kind of be the ultimate ender of the 2 timelines, like put a nail in
Mm-hmm.
that coffin, but we'll see. I think like if Kuminga wants to be there, then I think that's kind of the biggest factor, because obviously he
Yeah.
wants to get paid and he wants to prove himself and he wants to star in his role and take over. But if the opportunity isn't there for those primary touches, that's going to be tough to keep him happy. So a great what if that could really be an X factor, and probably is the ultimate X factor in their
Yeah.
championship success this season, is how that Kuminga role and kind of the happiness of the locker room plays out. And
Okay.
before I skip to number 3, my number 2 is, will Kevin Durant's Rockets have an offensive identity beyond Kevin Durant? Because we know
That's
KD's going
it.
to get his, and
Yep.
we can kind of assume they have some 3-point shooters around him. So we got KD hitting middies over double teams. We got
Do
him
they?
kicking out.
Do they have enough?
That's the question. Is there enough else to
Mm-hmm.
create offense? Because they have some
Okay.
shooters, I think, but is there enough? You tell me.
Yeah. I'm looking like I like Jabari Smith Jr.'s shot, and that's about it. Like Dorian Finney-Smith, yes, he's a 3 and D, but like he's just above 30%. Like
lot
he's
more
not
of the
a
defense. He's
crazy.
bringing the
Yeah, a
defense
lot more
there.
defense. Exactly. So I'm like, I think that's the one thing that Houston doesn't have enough of right now is 3-point shooting. Outside of Kevin Durant, Jabari Smith Jr., who could play alongside him, could be behind him in the rotation. We'll see how Udoka utilizes him. He likes Jabari Smith Jr., but we'll see how he utilizes him. But I mean, Fred VanVleet, he has his bombs. We know he can hit some big time shots, but I wouldn't say he's a consistent 3-point shooter, and he's going to have the ball in his hands setting the floor. Amen Thompson, not really that person as well. So yeah, I'm very curious as to how that offense is going to look outside of Kevin, because Kevin's going to need to take some time, and he's going to have to sit. He's had injuries. He's going to have to sit some games. What does it look like in those days? Can they get big time wins just off their defense? We shall see. I think that's a good one. I think that's a great one. I'm going to run through my 3, 4, and 5, just in being conscious of time.
Hit our
Number
most
3,
interesting.
Yeah, number 3 is Cooper Flagg worth the hype.
Oh, close to my number 4, but that's a big question right there. Worth the hype is a lot different than my number 4.
What's your number 4?
So my number 4 is, how good will the Kyrie AD Flagg Mavs be, not overall in the future, but in the playoffs this year? If, for instance, they're the 7 seed, right when Kyrie, AD, and Flagg get healthy, they could play a team with no experience at the 2 seed and just kind of be in a good situation in the playoffs. Maybe they're a sneaky threat as a contender, but what's interesting is on Flagg meeting the hype is that the hype makes it unfair sometimes to these guys.
I agree. I agree.
I don't think he's Wemby as a prospect, but I think he's like one of the most versatile, complete, all around, especially defensive prospects with an all around skill set I've ever seen. We'll see where that ends up being as a player, but he's got a lot of tools to work with. So, definitely excited to see how that plays out. And on, Luka and the Lakers and the Hawks round out my top 5 as well. Will Luka, LeBron, and Ayton be better than expected, or will LeBron kind of be head elsewhere before the end of this season? That's number 3 for me. And then, are the Hawks going to win 50 games in a top 4 seed in Atlanta? Are they about to just rock the top 4 seed? That's what I want to see play out.
Okay, I got a question. You said when you started this that you had some questions. I think you said this off air, but you had some questions about your 5. There was one that you asked and you answered it for yourself. Which one was that?
Yeah, I started asking myself about the Clippers. basically, can I finally trust the Clippers? Does adding Chris Paul, Brad Beal, John Collins, Brooke Lopez mean we can finally count on the Harden, Kawhi, Zubac Clippers in the playoffs? And as I read it out loud, I'm like, I'm gonna bump this for the Hawks. The answer is no. I don't trust the Clippers enough to be in this playoffs, but I really love the roster. I think they really improved. If you told me they win like 50 games, like again, or improve on last year, totally believe it. They're going to have like a star guard on the floor at all times, like with really elite defensive bigs. I mean, their roster's loaded. So like I can talk myself into it, but as soon as I write the full question, I can't say yes to that question. So we got to go with the Hawks here. So how about you? Did we miss any?
I'm just thinking about the Clippers and the AARP team. I love them. I do. I really do.
It's full of everyone's favorite names. You know, there's at least 3 names you love on that team.
Exactly. We'll see what happens. I know they're smart and they're savvy, and you can beat a lot of people just off of that. And then also they're capable. It's just a matter of, can they keep up with some of these younger teams that are going to run and gun? And one of those teams is my number 4, the Spurs. De'Aaron Fox just got a crazy extension. He barely got to play with Wemby last year. What is it going to actually look like in practice? If he gets an extension like that, that means Wemby loves that man. And that means that they've seen enough with them together to be like, you know what, it's worth it. But there's also the factor of their younger guys, Devin Vassell, Stephon Castle, Dylan Harper. Is that a little bit much of the same type of play coming out of them? And what's going to happen on the wings? Jeremy Sohan and Harrison Barnes, and like, what are we doing? What's happening? I don't even know. Is Harrison Barnes still on that team? I actually do not know right now. I believe he is.
I'll look it up for you. He was last year.
Let's just check. He was last year. I'm just saying, I don't know what happened this offseason with him. I think he re-signed.
It's a good question. The NBA site got him still on the Spurs, but you know, the fact that we had to look it up, you know, isn't a great sign. But
right. But the thing about, like, Harrison Barnes did a lot for that team. Him and Chris Paul brought a lot of veteran stability, I think.
For sure.
I'll never forget that Harrison Barnes was the one that hit that buzzer beater against the Warriors that basically got them. I would say
with their playoffs, didn't it?
They playoff, yeah. I think they that shot basically moved them down, and is what forced them to end up playing the Houston Rockets.
And yes, he's back on the Warriors, or back on the Spurs to be
back
clear.
On the Spurs. Okay, so that was my number 4, and then number 5. Does Giannis stay?
Oh, the big one.
Don't know.
That's
I have
the big
no
one.
idea. That's a good one.
It's a big one.
And if he doesn't stay, where does he go? I'm gonna mic drop on that one.
Boom. There it is, right there. I mean, that's the inevitable question that has to be answered for Milwaukee. But you know, so again, they pulled off some magic and seemed to made him happy again with this Miles Turner move to give him one more shot at least. And as long as they could keep getting one more shot with Giannis, I think the Bucks fans will take just about any move you got to take over there. The Spurs, super interesting to see all the different moves that the Spurs are making around Wemby. It feels like they're finding like specialist role players to see who fits. Like, will Luke Cornett randomly be a nice fit with Wembanyama as doing that Cornett block where he just gets in the vision of the shooter? Like maybe that plus Wembanyama is like the ultimate optical illusion. Like that's what it feels like they're trying, because it really is. It's not a misfit of talent, but it is over like maybe a lot of the same talent in certain areas. Like let's see, Harper and Fox is a big question to me, but it's a good problem to have. Like there's no reason to rush the process. They might end up fitting together. If they don't, they're clearly on different age timelines that one can be moved if you like the fit with Wemby more than the other. And they're both going to have value because one's a star in his prime and the other's a rookie star on a rookie deal. And it's kind of hard to go wrong. Good problem to have there. So I do kind of think they should just kind of go slow, cook this thing one more year. The next draft is so incredible that like, if you're on the fringe playoffs, like one more star with this group would be just take it. Clearly the goal is long-term dynasty like the last Spurs. So like the more blue chip talent you can get now on Wemby's rookie deal and stars, like why not? But obviously they want to compete too. They're doing all these other moves. So can't wait to kind of see how that plays out. But These are all super interesting questions, but thanks a lot for taking the time today, Zena. I know you got to get out of here. I really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun learning about the Golden State basketball men's and women's pro teams, and just seeing how everything's blowing up on that side. And appreciate you taking the time and sharing your journey, your path, and some advice to everybody to, try to break into sports media themselves. So thanks a lot for hopping on today.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for all you do teaching folks things about basketball on Swish Theory. Love it.
Hey, thanks for the kind words. Have a good one, Zena.
Bye.
With Ryan.
Learning Basketball is a Swish Theory podcast hosted from Beyond the Arcade. Hey, that's me. You can find my work on Twitter, YouTube, Substack, and check out the team's writing at theswishtheory.com.